Well, it's not the game and the outcome we hoped for, and tonight's not the show we really hope to do. But here we are for another episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. This is episode 447. My name is Brian, hosting the show here with Coach and Josh Dye. Welcome back, Josh. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for having me again. It's gonna be an interesting one. Usually I'm here to bring energy, bring excitement, bring whatever, but you gotta match the vibe a little bit. So we're gonna feel this out in real time. It's a nice little therapy session for everybody, if so to speak.
Yeah. That's why, I didn't know quite what to say in that intro. Like, what do you say after a 4-0 loss to Messi in Miami at TQL Stadium? Their first win since what, 2021? Is that what they kept saying on the broadcast? Their first win at TQL since 2021 or 2023? I don't know. I don't remember. That's neither here nor there. Coach, welcome back to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We missed you last week.
Yeah, I try to miss these shows and only come on for the good ones, but somehow I missed the international break show when there's nothing to talk about but good vibes out of the US camp, and then I come on for this mess. I'm all out of sorts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We talked a little bit pre-show, like what the comments were going to be like tonight, and we'll just see. So if you've got something to say, questions to ask, put them in the chat. We'd love to get to those as we go here tonight. But as always, we are going to start with our best and worst. As difficult maybe as it will be to come up with the best, I think they're out there. Coach, I'll let you get us started.
Yeah, so my best is that we have evidence for what things can look like under Pat Noonan from year 1 to year 2 of a superstar. I know it's hard to remember, but when Pat Noonan came in, he couldn't really figure out how to utilize Lucho Acosta through that whole year. And so Lucho Acosta had a decent season, but nothing fantastic. But then that second year under Lucho, Pat figured out how to get him on the ball up higher up the pitch, and he really made magic, and that was the Supporters Shield winning season. So, I guess Evander MVP and Supporters Shield incoming next year. So that's my best. My worst has got to be that the guy in the midfield, I'm not even going to give his name. I'm not going to do the injustice of mentioning his name because he must be a nobody, but there was some guy in the midfield that everybody seemed to love that was wearing gloves when it was 50 degrees outside. And there was talk that maybe he was a cheater because he's really a DP, but somehow the league let him not be a DP. And, I don't know any of that. I just know there's a midfielder on the pitch trying to be a midfield hard man wearing gloves. That's really not my best. My worst. My worst is that I'm not going to have a really good natural reason to go back to Standard Beer for quite some time because, man, I love that place. And if you have not checked it out, I'm not a paid sponsor or anything. I just love it there. Always has such a good tap list. Go check out Brett and Standard Beer if you get the chance downtown.
Wouldn't be opposed to them sponsoring, right, though?
Right. Yeah. Come on. Somebody tell Brett. If you know Brett, tell him that I'm saying good things about him on the show and send some stuff our way.
Yeah, there you go. Josh, man, best and worst.
Yeah, I mean, my best now is apparently I'll write down Standard and make sure I make a visit next time I'm in town, because that's a high praise over there from Coach. Getting the Coach seal of approval, gotta make it out there. No, but my best is looking ahead. The stable is full for 2026. I mean, you got to give some credit to Chris Albright and Pat Noonan for working the way that they did, especially in the summer window. When you look at who started in this game, I mean, and you're looking at Sammy Guidi starting every single game in the playoffs, and you're looking at Ender Echenike starting every single game in the playoffs, earning himself, both of these guys, first team minutes for their national teams. Guidi's U21 team, but Ender getting national team call-ups. It's huge. I mean, those are two staples, are the guys who are theoretically going to be here for the next couple of seasons. And so I think when you look top down the list, most of your striker room is set. Most of your midfield is set. Your defense has got some rebuilding to do, but for the most part, all of the pieces are there to make another real crack at this thing, and you trust Chris Albright to kind of figure out the fringes of the roster. There's no reason to not believe that 2026 can't be the same kind of expectation that we have for 2025. So very excited for the future. My worst we'll scale it back to Sunday. And for me, what I had thought of most of the year was, obviously a lot of talk about the underlying numbers and the XG and things like that. But for me, it was FC Cincinnati not making the most of their opportunities when they came. And once again, that was on display in this game. Chances going begging. The first half in my rewatch today, FC Cincinnati could have been up 2-3-0 in the first 20 minutes of this game. And then there was opportunities left all over that field. So, you see one of those, two of those go in, and all of a sudden we're probably having a different, more cheery episode. But one of those things I'm going to be looking out for next season is the clinical finishing on this team, because that season was left last night because they could not finish.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of those good chances ended up 19 rows up above the goal. Pretty crazy there. We got a couple best and worst in the chat. So a little dangerous to go that way tonight, but we'll say best was Ender, worst Messi fans from Pace, SJ Pace there in the stadium. Jose, best only 2 minutes of added time in second half. Honorable mention to some FCC players walking around the pitch afterwards, and worst, every line got beaten and sometimes even pushed around, with honorable mention to Evander as his worst there. Jose, we're going to look for your chats tonight, because I know you have some things to say about that game. So bring it. We'd love to hear from you. Rupesh is a shout out. Is this Waterboy shout out? Oh no, we suck again. It's a good one there. I love it. And then we've got from Rupesh, best was Ender, worst offense looking as speculative as they have most of the season. For sure. So I'm going to get into my best and worst. And I'll just say this, like the finishing, as you said, Josh, like I could go there. We already talked a little bit about that. The chances that Lucas Engel could have created, but didn't, because he put balls up into the stands. Could have been an honorable mention worst. I'm going to go with Falcone on this one, though, and his antics there at the beginning of the game with he and Hagelin that we couldn't see watching on screen. Like I didn't see a ton of it other than the ref calling them both over and kind of giving it to Hagelin and Falcone walking away laughing. And then I hear what happens in the stadium of him getting thrown down and whatnot. So I wondered, like many fans watching, why people were screaming at Falcone the whole game. And it was, I guess, because of that time throwing Hagelin down and getting away with it. Hagelin getting punished for it. But my best, this is kind of you got backhanded compliments sometimes. Like, I guess my best, if I had to pick one, is that I get my weekend anxiety is a little bit less for a couple of months now, not worrying about the outcome of the FC Cincinnati match. There is other Cincinnati teams and other local teams here in Fort Wayne that I follow, but that's a little bit of anxiety off of my plate for just a little bit this off season. So before we move on, guys, we need to thank our sponsor, Apollo Home. Apollo says, sadly, FC Cincinnati season has come to an end, but the heating season is just starting. If you have any concerns about your HVAC systems, or if you have any plumbing or electrical needs, give Apollo Home a call, shoot them a text, or book an appointment online at apollohome.com. They feel sentiments just like we do. Sadly, it's over. Let's get into the match a little bit here. And we could talk at length about this match, but we do want to leave space for some off-season, post-season stuff, the roster moves that we could potentially see here. But I do want to talk about the game a little bit here. And my question is this, guys, we can just focus here, and instead of breaking down play-by-play of the game, unless we want to go there, was it as bad as it looked? Because it looked rough. If you were in the stadium or if you were watching at home, it looked bad in all phases of the game. Last night, right? And you guys have rewatched. I couldn't bring myself to do it today to rewatch. You rewatched it. Was it as bad as it looked on the second go around? Either one of you.
No, same time. I'll start. No, to me, the answer is no. What I'll start with saying is that I've seen it a lot, is that people are screaming it's 4-0 in two of the 4 playoff games, 4-0. You can't lose 4-0. FC Cincinnati lost 2-0, really, maybe 3 if you want to give them the third one. But when you're down 2-0 in the way that they were last night, you're throwing everything forward. And Miami's just a clinical team that hits you on the counter and then they finish. Like, to me, and whatever, like, call me whatever you want about it. Like, those last 2 goals mean nothing to me. I'm not taking anything away from them because Teenage Adebi is playing left wing back. Like, you're just throwing everyone up. Like, it doesn't. Sammy Guidi's playing center back in that, and then the third goal. It's just like Evander turned the ball over, and then it's over. Like, it's fine. Like, I don't take anything from that. So, in my brain, to justify it, it's 2-0, and it didn't look that bad because, like I mentioned in my worst, like, the chances were there. They were the better team for the first 20 minutes of that game, right up until you lose Lionel Messi. And like in our rundown, I marked a bunch of things. I'm not going to hit on all of them, but the one thing on my rewatch that I was so kind of taken aback by were just the moments that the difference of how clinical Miami was and how unclinical Cincinnati was. And it was kind of mind-boggling because so you look at in the 12th minute, Evander floats across to Brenner, right? He gets a loose ball. Vander whips the ball in. Brenner mistimes the jump. It's a little bit of a high float. Gets a little bit of a flick header on. Softly caught. Nothing gone by. And you fast forward to Miami's goal. It's the exact same play, except Messi plays the ball out wide, and then it's a hard cross delivered in, and Messi's by himself, and it's a perfectly weighted header into the ground, into the corner of the net. Like, it's a clinical cross, it's a clinical finish, it is executed to perfection. That's the difference throughout this entire game. The second goal, 15th minute, you go to the 15th minute, my jaw hit the floor when I saw Kevin Denke muscle a defender and turn and just completely leave him in the dust. It's like, oh man, there's Kevin Denke doing it. But instead of carrying into the box, maybe getting a better chance or getting fouled, he shoots from distance and he shoots it right into the keeper's arms. And then you fast forward in the 57th minute. Oh, what do you know? Alande turns Teenage Hadebe around, completely blows him out of the water, and it's 3 passes and then a clinical finish in the corner, and it's 2-0, and the game's basically over. Like, there are just so many pockets of moments of where Miami did what they always do, and they kill you in the counter, and they make the pin perfect pass, the pin perfect shot, and they just beat you that way. And there's just too many moments where Cincinnati left those moments going, or left them away. And so for me, Miami just did what they always do, but that doesn't mean they dominated Cincinnati. Cincinnati just let those moments go. They just left them on the field. And that's the difference in the playoffs that you can't do.
Yeah, to respond a bit to that, my buddy Lance that I go to most of the games with turned to me afterwards and said, I've seen them play a lot worse and actually win or draw games. And I agree with him. Like, FCC didn't get played off the pitch other than the scoreline, and that's where it matters. And that's where I do want to kind of get into. I do think Josh is right. It's not as bad as it looks. But I will say this. I said going into this match after beating Columbus, I think FCC's playing with house money a little bit. As long as FCC doesn't get blown out of the water and we get to do one more sha-la-la, I'll be happy. And you know what? As a fan, I didn't get either of those things because, number one, sure, the last 2 goals didn't matter, but as some of the commenters have made obvious, there also was not that fight. There was not that, I'm going to get into some tackles. I'm not going to let us look like fools out here. It was after the second goal, it was kind of like, well, we're going to push forward. And then the third goal happens and it's like, it was bound to happen. And then Messi almost scores the fourth and they're like, oh, well, it's gonna, and then the fourth, and it's like, there just was no moment where it really felt like after that second goal, like FCC was gonna wrench something out of it. No anger, no like it's now or never to me. And so what was as bad as it looked was a few key players that did not show up. Brian, you mentioned Lucas Engel, and Josh, you mentioned a play that was exactly like Messi's. Mine is a play that was exactly like Messi's header that Engel got in down the left and was wide open to whip in across. And if you freeze it there and you look, Kevin Denke is matched up on Noah Allen on the back post with like 10 yards of space. Noah Allen, who's a foot shorter and like 100 pounds lighter than Kevin Denke. So Lucas Engel, put it anywhere near Denke and he's going to win the ball and have a good chance of scoring, I think. What does he do? Hits it into the stands on a cross. It wasn't even like hit it off the first defender or in a corner. Like that would have been bad still. But like hit it into the stands.
It was like, high into the stands.
I don't know if he just forgot to look at the ball or what. But that's one play. You know what? He only completed 47% of his passes in the attacking half. Like you can't have that. Buka, who's such a key player for this team, he only had 34 touches on the night. 34. You know, like that's just sad. Evander had 5 shots, but only 0.1 XG. Means he wasn't even really close with any of them. So I just think, you know, and then Brenner to me just had, like, he wasn't terrible, but this is a flat game. He didn't really do anything. 0 shot creating actions. He had that little flick header that was kind of a shot. But it's like, I don't, these big players, just none of them, you know, showed up. And so when you have that many key players just kind of fall flat, that is the part that is as bad as it looks.
You know, back to your point about Cincinnati not having any fight, no heart. Jay Yates said it differently in the chat here. He said our mascot needs to be the Tin Man because this team has no heart. Getting blown out 4-0 in 2 of 3 playoffs games speaks volumes. Yeah, I think that may be harsh, but we've said it all season, right? That, you know, this team lacks the fight at the end of games to seal it, to come back and win it. They've only done it twice all season when they gave up a first goal to come back and do it. I was hoping last night would be the third, and obviously it wasn't. And so I don't know if it's lack of heart or lack of like tactics. Like, how do we fight back out of this? Or maybe it's just a lack of clinical finishing, as you said earlier, Josh. Like, we've got a lot of money in those front 3, and the lack of clinical finishing is something that I think we need to look at moving forward and how we get after that, right? Maybe it's formation. Maybe it's guys just need to shoot more in training. I don't know, Coach. Do you always finish with finishing drills and training?
I don't know that I always finish with finishing drills. I do think finishing drills are important, but I am much more as a coach of the mindset that, like, if you're creating good chances, like, you're going to finish some and you're going to not finish others. So you just need to create more good chances. And while I agree, they had looks in this game. Like, the only really good chance I thought was the one where Ender Echenike got in and ended up poking wide of the far post, and Brenner was upset that he didn't get the ball. If you remember that one, that was the only really good chance. The one where Ender headed across and Evander sliced a shot, it was a quote good chance because it was Evander and he's an excellent player. So it is a chance created. I'm not trying to belittle that, and I'm with you, Josh, that like Evander should have done better there. But I'm saying FC Cincinnati is not creating the kind of chances that Messi scored in this game. Right. Wide open headers, like where all you have to do is just not miss the ball with your head and it's going in. Right. Yeah. Even the chance that Silvetti had for the second goal, like, he was wide open. It was a tough angle. So it was an excellent finish, a low XG chance, but FCC created like one of those chances, which was Ender's, right? And he didn't score it. So it's a bit of both. And it's not just clinical finishing. It's also finding a way to generate more of those chances.
Yeah. You know, as I watch the game, I see a player like Messi, who is brilliant, who can get into tight spaces and get out of tight spaces. He can dish a ball wherever he wants, but the run that he made to get on the end of that ball on that first goal on that header was brilliant. Shaking 2 defenders, running near post, and then cutting back post was brilliant. But the thing that I saw him do game in and game out this season, especially in this offseason, is make the simple pass. Just make the simple ball. They've got guys running. They've got wingers. So that's one thing. Their system is set up that way. But he has guys that trust that he's going to get them the ball when he has the ball at his foot. And something I've seen in Cincinnati this season and last season when we had Lucho is we go down the middle of the field, and it's like guys are sometimes hesitant to make runs. Am I going to get the ball? Is it worth it? I'm going to bust my tail to get up there. I might not get it. So maybe I'll just hang out, play a short ball, and then I'll dish it from there. Where Miami has guys that are just streaking. It's like Messi just says, just run and I'll get it to you. Like, it's that simple of a game to him when he's playing that way. And maybe it's the way defenses have to play against him because, you can't give him too much space. And so it opens up space otherwise. But we just don't play the simple ball most of the time, it seems like. And maybe it's because the simple ball, we don't have the runners that are getting into that space.
Yeah, this is where... Go ahead, Josh.
Oh no, I think Ender and Shanike unlocked a lot of this. I think you saw it a lot in the playoffs, and I think you saw a lot in this game. Like there was no question who was the most dangerous player on FC Cincinnati's attack, and it was Ender, because speed was something that this offense has missed so much. And I think you even saw it. There was Denke had a breakaway chance and he got caught, and his first touch let him down a bit, but like he's not a burner. Like Brenner's not a speed demon. Like you're not even Sergio Santos is not walking through that door anymore trying to run guys down and speed. And even then he was lost. So it's like Cincinnati hasn't had a real burner in a long time, if at all. And like, so yeah, I think that could be a very big bright spot, or a spot that Chris Albright needs to find in this team is adding some serious speed to that striker room, because to your point, like when you have a guy like Evander who's dropping back so far to get on the ball, like we saw Lucho do it a lot too, and I noticed Evander doing a lot more late season. Like he's picking up the ball at the top of the Cincinnati's 18, dropping down to like the 8 spot to find, if he can turn and look up and trust somebody that he's gonna win. That's not just Ender and Shanike on the right side, where everyone's gonna shift that way. If we can have multiple guys that kind of hit and ping and go, stretch the defense, that's going to unlock a different facet of this offense that they just have not had in years.
We've had a guy like Luca Orshano who was fast and was blowing by guys all last season. This season, he struggled, right? And he hasn't been on the pitch much to show that speed, and he hasn't been up high on the wing either. So I think he's a guy that had the speed. We just didn't see it this year.
I think when you play in a 3-5-2 or a 5-3-2 or whatever you want to say, when you play with wingbacks like FC Cincinnati does, unless you are just absolutely bossing the game, those wingbacks are having to defend. And so when that ball pops out or there's a turnover and you're going quick it's got to be up the middle, and you hit on Brenner and Denke. Like that is not, neither of them are going to stretch the field. A Jabari, he is legit fast for a guy his size. Like he could stretch the field a little bit. And we saw that here and there, but he is brand new to the team. Didn't really get to settle in. I think that this is where I can really blame Pat Noonan, although I'm not sure, and Chris Albright, because the team isn't set up. They can't play for at the back. But when you're not playing with wingers, Messi has that time and space because he has 2 guys hugging the touchline that when he looks up, they're just crashing in from wide, and he's got the whole field to play it into, from the touchline all the way into like the edge of the 6, that whole channel. You put it anywhere in there, and Allende is going to have a chance to get it, and Silvetti's going to have a chance to get it. With Evander, it's like, if there's the rare case when the turnover happens and a wing back happens to be a little bit up the field, or it's like trying to hit Brenner or Denke in the seam and hope that they can pin the guy on their hip and use their strength more than their speed. I do think team speed is a little bit, but it's more that the team isn't really set up to play through balls like that. And Miami absolutely is. Miami killed FCC in transition, and not just the last 2 goals. The first 2 goals were both transitions in my mind. The first one for sure, a bad Nick Haglund turnover, right? And if you watch that turnover, right when that ball hits Jordi Alba's foot, the wingers and Messi, everybody is streaking forward. And it's a simple play from there because they have all those players high up the pitch. If that same exact thing happens, and we saw it earlier in the season, Engel picks off the ball or something, when he is running up there, he has Evander, Brenner, and Denke all in the middle of the pitch. Like those are the guys. So that same goal can't happen for them. And then the second goal was transition because it was a throw in, and Hidebe made a just ridiculous challenge trying to win the throw. I don't know what he was doing, but the point being, I think team speed is less just like, oh, they need more fast guys, and more like, what are you going to do with those fast guys? You got to put them in the right position so that they can get in behind. And I do think it's a huge downside that Ender, who was one of the best players on the pitch, which is not a high bar because not a lot of players played well, but I thought he was pretty bright. He was a bright spot. The only player who had less touches than him was Kevin Denke, who as a center forward, you expect him to have probably the fewest touches on the team. So the fact that SEC just didn't get him on the ball enough, I think kind of shows how that game plan went.
Yeah, two things you said, Coach. One, the mistaken, attempt on that throw in by Hadebe. I think it was probably because the ball wasn't in the air behind him that he could bicycle it out. That was probably number one. And number two, the question is like, what brilliant on Mascherano's part to play Silvetti instead of Suarez. The commentators talked about it on the broadcast beforehand that Silvetti gave them more speed, gave them more of a ability to high press Cincinnati that Suarez doesn't necessarily do because he doesn't play much defense, right? So were they, was this a 19-year-old that had a moment to shine, or was this Mascherano being brilliant and saying, I'm going to play the guy that has speed and can get on the ball up high in the attack?
Man, I definitely don't think it was Mascherano being brilliant, because I think it was the most obvious thing that he could have done.
Okay.
I think it's good that he did it. I was surprised. I'm surprised he did it, but not because he's a tactical genius. I'm just surprised he didn't cop to like all his friends from Barcelona.
Sure.
Is what I was surprised about. So was it the right coaching move? Yes. Was it brilliant? I don't think so. Silvetti is an outstanding player. He's a player that would not be in MLS, but for the chance to play with Lionel Messi. So it's like, these are the things we see in LA and in Miami where, they're going to be able to get players that the rest of the league does not have access to because of the location. And right now for Miami, players taking pay cuts or whatever to come play with them. So, but that's, it is what it is, and you have to find a way to defend that. I do think that it is something that makes the league a little bit like it's harder to watch. But it kind of happens in all leagues, like Liverpool is going to have more access to players than Burnley. So what are you going to do?
Right.
And I will say, I mean, like to spin this in an FC Cincinnati light, like, so their game plan was pretty obvious in the sense of like, okay, we know Ender Echenique is going to go forward. What we're going to do is turn them over in the midfield and immediately attack Nick Hagland, right? Like it's not hard to look at that back line and think like, oh, who's the least athletic? Oh, it's Nick Hagland. Like, this is not a shot at Nick Hagland. Like, he's been great, but like, he doesn't stand a chance in those instances. He's not that one-on-one defender, especially against a kid who's 19, as we just discussed, who's like, his talent outweighs most of the wingers that are in MLS already. So like, I'm not going to give Mascherano that much credit for doing it, but that if the 3-back system is going to be the way going forward, you need to there is a new center back needs to be starting somewhere along that back line. And then we know Miles Robinson's going to be a DP center back next year. So does he play the center? Do you find a center, a middle center back to kick him out to the right? Because we've seen how great he is defending in those spaces and those 1v1 moments. So it's like, I think we're finally in that transition moment of Nick Hagland kind of probably needing to take a back seat, be the first defender off the bench in those moments, because he got hurt a little bit back there, and you can't blame him too much because he was put on an island and defending a kid he has no business defending. But something's got to be done back there, and Rupesh saying Gilberto Flores out there, maybe that's the answer. Maybe he is the future there, and I would certainly love to see him get a full season or full preseason at trying to win that job. So we'll see. But yeah, credit to Miami. The dichotomy of this fan base.
Flores, not Flores.
Not Flores. So, I mean, we'll see. I think center back is a spot that, not to get ahead of ourselves on the rundown, but center back is a spot that we need to figure out if back three is going to be the way still.
Yeah. We'll get to that here in just a second. Wanted to get your guys' predictions as we move forward in MLS playoffs. Who do you foresee moving on? Do you see anybody beating Miami? Is it Vancouver? Does New York City have a chance? Like, what do you see moving forward for the rest of these playoffs?
I literally cannot imagine a world where New York City goes down to Miami and wins. Like I cannot fathom it. But also, I thought with all their injuries that was the same case for them going into Philadelphia. So what do you know? I don't think that they have a chance. So I think MLS Cup is going to be in Miami because they have hosting rights no matter what if they advance. And I do think Vancouver could beat them. I don't think it's likely. Probably if I had to bet money now, I would bet Miami to win it. But I think Vancouver does have that thing that FCC lacked, that mentality piece, you know, of like, even if we're getting outplayed, we're going to try to boss this game physically or do something else. Where if Vancouver can get past the next match, because, you know, they're going to be missing a center back again because of a red card. But if they can get through to MLS Cup, I do think that they'd have a chance to win. So I'm predicting Vancouver and Miami in the final, and I'm going to be rooting like crazy for a Vancouver win, even though I probably would not predict that.
Yeah, they could be missing 2 center backs because the one that came on was injured, and they finished that match 2 men down.
They finished with 9. They finished with 9,
which was pretty wild. Pretty wild. If you saw
the best MLS game of the season by far. I don't know if anybody watched that game though. Like it was that LA Vancouver game, just insane, just absolute.
I watched the drunkest half of that. Oh, it was crazy.
The drunkest soccer I've seen in such a long time. It ruled. It ruled.
Yeah, I don't see anybody beating Miami in the form that they're in, especially with the injury and the red card Vancouver has. Maybe they'll get past Minnesota. They should get past Minnesota, but or San Diego, whoever they're going to end up playing. But I just don't see anybody beating Miami in the form that they're in. Josh, anything else there?
No, and I mean, realistically, you look at whatever we always talked about in MLS. It's not necessarily about how it's not about where you finish in the table, but it's how you finish the season. And there's no team hotter than Miami. Like it is a buzzsaw that is just running through everyone. I mean, Messi's like, again, it's like he's the best. Like we know this. Like, and he's gonna win MVP. And it's annoying because it's not like he's just giving it because he's Messi. He's giving it because he's the best player in the league. Like 22 goals of their 22 goal contributions in their last 24 goals. Like, what are we doing? Like he's just dominating people. And I can't see it slowing down. It will be the funniest result if NYCFC beats them. It will be the funniest result. But I'll be rooting for Minnesota just because that's the funnest story. Like the underdog of all the underdogs left. Minnesota, sure. Like what? That's random. but yeah, I don't see anybody slowing Miami down, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, we're going to move on. We mentioned the injury out there in Vancouver. And so that made me think we got to thank Beyond Exercise, our second half show sponsor, because they work with folks who have injuries. Beyond Exercise is a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury free. They help some of our local MLS Next Pro, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. All right, guys, we want to move into, we had this poll we posted on X today, and the question was this: did the season meet, exceed, or fall short of your expectations? There were 150 votes pre-show. I don't know if there's been more since then. 32% of people say it met their expectations. 46% said it fell short of expectations, and only 4% said that this season exceeded their expectations, which I'll start this conversation off by saying I feel like that 4% number is a little low. Like if we think back to the beginning of the season and we were uncertain, what our front 2 or 3 were going to look like. We had questions about, the guys we were losing, who was going to step in. We had Orishano, we had Kubo out in preseason, and we had all these questions about what the season is going to look like. So yeah, I think 4% feels low to me. Like I think there would have been more of us that said at the beginning of the season that would have said if we finished second in the table, made it to the Eastern Conference Finals or semifinals, that would have exceeded my expectations early on in this season. So that feels low to me. What do you guys think? according to that poll? Did it meet, exceed, or fall short of your expectations? Let's go beginning of season.
Yeah, I think that for me, it's a tough question because it's like a little bit of a and both, right? I think
Yeah.
if I'm really honest with myself and I think back to where I felt the team was in the beginning of the season, I would say met, maybe even exceeded a little bit my expectations, because I remember thinking like this team, like they might like finish and make a run if they finish strong, but they will not be in the Supporter Shield conversation. I thought there was no way with the amount of turnover, with trying to make that transition from Lucho to Evander. Evander came in late, all the holdouts, not knowing for sure if Denke would need time to settle, like all of these things. I could not imagine them being in Supporter Shield contention, and they were. So in that way, they maybe exceeded a little bit. I would say that the thing is like offensively, they definitely fell short of my expectations, because even in that, I thought, but when this offense goes, it's going to go. And then, then they only added to that, Brenner and Jabari and guys like this. So I always thought, man, but when they get going, they're going to go. And they just never really got going. But holistically, I got to say, I think our fandom as Cincinnati fans, just as fans in general, we're always going to remember the ride, and we're going to be like, oh, but we thought we were going somewhere and then we didn't. We're going to go into playoffs thinking like we're going. And so when we lose in playoffs, we're always going to feel like we fell short. And that's a really normal part of being a fan. If you can sit back and put your analyst hat on, I really think it's hard to argue that they fell way short of expectations. I think you could say I expected an Eastern Conference final, but nobody in their right mind can say I expect an MLS Cup other than Miami and maybe LA if you factor in bringing Sun. Like other than that, you can't expect an MLS Cup. That can't be the standard because it takes so much luck to get there. It is what it is, and both.
Yeah. I stand corrected. Rupesh put the poll up. I mixed my numbers up. It was not 46, but 64% said it fell short of their expectations. I didn't add those up. I just mixed the numbers up. My bad. So 64% said they fell short of expectations. Josh, what do you think?
So preseason, I looked at, I had them finishing second in the East. What do you know? Look at that. Don't look at the midseason. We don't worry about midseason. We just focus on preseason, solely on where I called it and nailed it. Check. Moving on. But I also said I predicted them to win MLS Cup because this roster, from a talent perspective, were an MLS Cup favorite, and I think it played out that way. So I think I'm kind of with Coach, and that it's a both. Like, yes, it's disappointing that this roster constructed couldn't grab a trophy somewhere along the way. But the trophies that they played in are the hardest trophies to win. They're not playing in U.S. Open Cup against USL teams. Like they're playing in Leagues Cup against top tier Mexican teams. They're playing in CONCACAF Champions Cup, which one team in MLS has only ever won. They're and as we mentioned, these knockout tournaments are luck based a lot of the time. So it's really hard. I'm with Coach there. It's really hard to have the expectation that it's a trophy or a failure of a season, because you can't it's hard to do. I'm not going to tell people how to fan. I'm not going to tell people how to have those expectations. But for me, it's figuring everything out on the fly. And like it was mentioned, I think Carter tweeted out, apologies if I got that wrong, but that game was Kevin Denke's 365-day anniversary with the team. Like, he was literally 1 year with the team on that game. So like, Evander was announced on February 9th or February 17th, and he came into a game in February 7th. He announced on the 17th, played in the game on the 19th. Like, they turned the majority of this roster over at the highest possible level in a single calendar year, and I think it's kind of nuts that they were even 1 point away from the Supporter Shield. Like, yes, it's great that we can have a team because, like, again, it's Cincinnati. This is supposed to be different, right? This team is supposed to be different. then the Bengals, then the Reds, where this is a ambitious club who wants to win, who pays the money to win. And like, yeah, and they are. Like, I don't think there's anything that we have seen so far to disprove that they aren't different than the other teams in the city. And I don't think that you should be able to look at every single season a failure that doesn't result in the highest possible outcome, because you're just gonna be miserable your entire time as a fan. Like, do yourselves a favor, please, and just enjoy some of the stuff along the way. Like, be okay with not reaching the highest level every single year. So it's like, yes, I want them to do better, and I will expect a little bit more next year now that we have the pieces in place, and now that Pat Noonan kind of has the hot seat turned up a little bit on him now. But just it's fine. It's okay that we don't win every single thing every single year. It's okay, because that's sports. There are only 6 active MLS coaches to win MLS Cup right now. There's only 6. And one of them just went out the door, and Wilfred Nancy, and one of them just got replaced in Tata Martino. So, like, you're just kind of trading those. So it's like, it's really freaking hard to win MLS Cup. It's gonna happen. FC Cincinnati will win an MLS Cup. Miss me with all this nonsense about this a window now. Sorry, I'm ranting now. I'm just letting it all out, because it's just crazy. It's like, I'm seeing all this stuff about, like, oh, the window's gone. Like, I don't think Carl is hurting in the pocketbook. I haven't heard anything that, like, oh, he's scaling everything back because, the recession hurts. Like, no. As far as we know, as far as we can operate, they're spending money to win, and they are winning more often than they are not. Hello, Pat Noonan being the winningest head coach in a 3-year span in league history, by the way. Yeah. So
I think, Josh, to say this.
Go ahead. Please cut me off, because I will do this for an hour and a half. It's nuts.
Somebody had to stop it, right?
That's fair.
I think to the fans are coming through here in the chat, right? And so what everybody's saying, from what I can tell, is we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for heart, really. We're looking for that killer instinct. We're looking for a team that has invested so much money in their front three, who can't finish games off, right? And so I think I would agree with that right now. It has been a fun season. It's been a lot of wins, but I just pulled up the table here, right? Cincinnati finished second in everything, right? The Supporters Shield, they finished second in Supporters Shield. But if you look at their goal differential, they had plus 12 goal differential. Philadelphia sitting ahead of them at 22, Miami behind them at 26, San Diego at 23, Vancouver at 28, LAFC at 25. And you have to go down to number 7 on the table to get less goal differential than FC Cincinnati. And I think that's what it is. We've given, this because he's been on the show, we've given Jose a hard time all season about these 1-goal wins and how it's not sustainable. And again, Jose, I know you're there. I know you're in the chat. I know you're listening, and I've given you the hardest time all season about that. And it has been sustainable for a season, but I don't know that continues for another season. I think that gets exposed, and the games we've 70 something % of our games we've won by 1 goal. I think they said on the broadcast, and that's 20% more than any other team in 1-goal games. So it has been sustainable, but I just think if you're going to stay at the top, that goal differential has to be higher moving forward. And so back to the original question, this meet, exceed, or fall short of expectations? I think for me, if I look back at my preseason prediction, I'd say this. I said Cincinnati, I thought, would finish 3rd in the East. I don't know what that meant for the Supporters Shield. I thought 3rd in the East, so they exceeded that expectation, right? This is our live show, episode 400. I remember saying these 4 things. We have an MVP candidate in Evander. I think he had just signed at that point, and it probably never was going to win because Messi's still in the league, right? But he played well till he didn't. Denke could be a Golden Boot candidate, which he was in the race until he wasn't. He had some injuries, and then he didn't come back and finish balls off, right? And I also said it was going to be Dado Valenzuela's breakout season. And I sure missed that one because his breakout season turned into a disappearing act by the end. But I would say, if I'm honest with myself, this season exceeded my expectations in every way, shape, and form. Where it fell short is when I got really excited mid-season with some additional moves, with Brenner coming back, and I got, excited about what could be. And so, yeah, maybe it feels like it fell short in this moment. But if we take a moment and step back, Cincinnati had a great season. And as you mentioned before, we've got pieces in place to move forward into the next season to have another successful go at it. So, but we do want to transition a little bit into next season a little bit. We are postseason, preseason, maybe, as you, depending on how you look at it. There are some potential roster moves coming. Rupesh was really instrumental in this. He's got an article coming out tomorrow, by the way, on Cincinnati's where they stand with the roster moves, positions, who's on contract, who's not, who's out, who the loans are going to be. So I just want to go through this list real quick and get your guys' thoughts on roster moves for the next season. So players locked in for 2026. We have 3 DPs as it stands right now, and Kevin Denke, Evander, and Miles Robinson. We have 3 U22s that are still under contract, Echenique, Flores, and Samuel Guidi. We have Pavel Buka in his final year of contract, Obi, Luca, Roman, Nick, Stefan Chirilla, Dado Valenzuela is still there, and Paul Walters, right? So those are the guys that are locked in for contract next year. Players with contract options, then I notice a lot of names I'm throwing at you, but Teenage Hidebi, Yuya Kubo, Matt Miazga, Alvis Powell, Brian Anunga, Steven Jimenez, Kai Kamara. We got Evan Loro, Kenji, and Brad Smith, who also had a bit of a disappearing act there at the end of the season. On loan, yeah, he had some injuries. I get it. On loan, Brenner, Engel, and Ayub Jabari, they all have purchase options. And then out of contract, Alec Khan is retiring, and Dom Marchuk, where'd he go? He's on loan right now, but out of contract. So of those guys, like that was a lot of names. Again, it may be hard to figure out who's where. Roster moves coach, what do you see in what Cincinnati needs to do to shore up whatever, pick up these options, drop the options, go out, get new guys? What position group, like where are you at on some of these roster moves?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would say is that those guys that are locked in, you can put together like a viable starting 11 out of just those guys that I think about half the teams in MLS would be pretty happy to have. Like Colorado, RSL, teams like this would love to have that starting 11. So that's a good basis. The only guy that's locked in next year that I just don't want back is Orishano. And that is not a talent problem. It's an attitude problem. So if you can find a way to get him on board, then I think he could be a good player. The issue, though, is, okay, you got a small group of guys that could be a good core, but then you look at those players with options and whether you're picking them up or not. And the opposite is kind of true there. Like there's not a single guy that I want back from that list on the numbers that they're on. Because the guys that you'd be like, yeah, I would take him back for another year. Yuya Kubo is a depth piece for me, or Matt Miazga. Like these guys, they're on big numbers. Teenage Hadeb, I think you could do worse than like the first guy off the bench as a center back as a teenage. But I don't know that I want him as a starter. And you can't have a guy making as much as he is, or counting against the cap as much as he is, starter. So I think most of those guys I'd want to let walk. From the loan guys, the only guys that I'd be really bummed to not get back is Jabari, just because I think he has such high upside. I think he's like Kevin Kelsey, but better. And I loved having Brenner back for a while, but I don't want to play 2 strikers. So I don't want to have Brenner and Denke around because I just want to get away from the 2 striker setup. So I think that Chris Albright, that's part of what's exciting about this offseason. He's got a lot of work to do, but it's not like work that like, oh my gosh, he has to revamp this roster. It's like there's a good core there already. And then there's still room, assuming they can work the finances out to get better.
Yeah. Josh, how about you? Roster moves. You agree with coach? What do you think? Who we keep, who we drop?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what Coach said. I'm looking at this list here, and I kind of said it earlier. Like, I think center back is going to be a really interesting spot that this team's going to have to fill because, Nick Hagland's contract is interesting the way he signed it. He's going to be on a supplemental spot next year, so that's going to open up some salary there. So maybe you have a little extra change to find somebody else. You know, I've made the joke, but I just half-heartedly am serious about somebody like a Walker Zimmerman. Like, can Chris Albright find a way to pull another? If Matt Miazga has played his last game in FC Cincinnati, which I wholeheartedly believe he has, like. Is that a name? Is that a talent that Chris Albright can resist signing if given the opportunity and really building out of the back like they did this whole season? I mean, every single center back was besides Nick Hagland was a TAM signing. So like they clearly value that position more than this fan base would like them to, but that's just kind of the reality. I mean, Miles Robinson is going to be a DP. Like that is such an interesting move. Do we hear weird rumblings about a fourth DP or whatever? And certainly MLS has certainly never shied away from making dramatic changes to roster construction things at the blink of an eye. So who knows what happens there? But I think given the resources, given some of the limited budget that they have, I think you're going to need to build around what you have in the guys in 2026. I think this could be a big year for Gilberto Flores. I think it could be a big year. I mean, obviously, Sammy Guidi, like I said in the last time I was on, that Sammy Guidi has stolen that starting job. And you have now Obi coming off the bench. I'm with Coach wholeheartedly. Like, I think you have to get Luca Orishano off this roster. I don't see what you do with him anymore. If you're trying to play him on the right as a right wing back, again, this is all assuming that we're sticking three in the back with wing backs. Like, okay, so you're pulling Ender and Shanike off the field, which it just feels like a bad idea. And you could play him on the left, but then you're sacrificing the defense on the left there. Like, I don't know what you do with him now, and so I would be super curious if you could try to find somebody to sell.
That's the question, right? That's the question, right? What can you get from him in the season that he's had? Like he does have an upside. We've seen it. It just wasn't this last season. And so can he still bring that? Does he still have it in him? Like what team is going to come looking for him? One thing I do want to say, and you can get back to that question if you want, is one thing that is changing in the roster construction next year is with Miles Robinson becoming a DP, as you mentioned, Josh, it changes our structure. We had a 2 DP 4 U22 setup this year. With Miles Robinson stepping in then as a DP with this contract, we've got 3 DPs and we're down to 2 or 3 U22s, which means one of the 4 has to go. Right now, that's Dom Marchuk, who's out of contract. And I assume he's the one that's stepping away. But it does change a little bit of how we look at the roster and what money we have to play with next year. So,
yeah, I mean, the obvious one is the GAM. Like the GAM is the big one there, right? You're losing that extra $2 million or $1 million CAM infusion. So, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be certainly and this, but I think somebody mentioned it in our group. It might have been one of the waggles of like, this is where Chris Albright makes his money, right? He makes those in roster spots, 11 through 20. Like he's not a huge DP guy. Obviously, I disagree. We will talk about this later. I don't think Miles Robinson is worth a DP spot, but we'll see what happens. But can he find those edges? Can he find those pieces around to fill out the rest of the roster that elevates this team above what it was now? I think looking at the players with options, like I think Alvis Powell has a role in this team. I think Brian Anunga has a role in this team. I think Teenage Adebe has a role in this team next year. Can you negotiate a contract down? He went off to Turkey and didn't perform, and so he came back to MLS and performed. So would he be willing? I think Evan. I mean, there are guys on this list that have places on this team but to Coach's point, it all comes back down to the money. Like, can they negotiate contracts down to fill out the rest of the roster? It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, one of the Weigels was saying, they're both the same to me. I don't even, twins, whatever. So
Twins, the same. Yeah.
just kidding, Brian and Brad. Anyway, uh, they were saying that that Albright's going to have less money. Basically, he's going to have 8 spots to fill with 6 players worth of money, is how it was put, based on the lack of GAM and things coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So finding those value plays, like this year, Brian Anunga was that. Like, he was a value play for the minutes he played at that position. Like, Albright's going to have to play find some of those spots. And the way to do that in MLS is to play 4 in the back and to have the outside back positions be like decent defender, league average, John Nelson type of players. Like, that's what the Galaxy did, right? And then have some high powered attack and have one defensive anchor like Miles Robinson that can hold things down for you. So I would love, actually, if coming into next season, the starters at center back were Miles Robinson and Gilberto Flores. I would love that. If there's a stable John Nelson type of guy on the left, and, somebody similar, a DeAndre Yedlin type on the right, like that sort of a thing, and then from there, like, let Ender and Orishano play on the wings, opposite each other, like, just go at teams like that. From a money standpoint, that is just a better way to build rosters in MLS. Doing this, like, put all this money in the defense and then, like, hope your 3 players that you're playing up top can, like, work magic together, is just it's just a difficult way to play. So I hear you. Like, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, like, this is getting into roster building, which is really not my expertise. I want to coach the guys up after you give them to me, but I do think there's something to be said for that, and also, like, Flores gets a lot of hate. Now I'm ranting because Josh got a rant, so I get one. I actually think Flores had a few high profile mistakes because he's a youngster, but he has good raw tools and he is going to be a good player, I think. And will you have to grow a little bit if he is the full-time starter next year? Full-time in air quotes. Will he make mistakes? He will, because he's young and he's going to make mistakes, but he's got the tools to be a good player, and he will grow into that position if you let him.
22 years old, Gilberto Flores. It's easy to forget how young so many of these guys are, and his first season really away. Like, yeah, why not?
Courtney's killing me in the comments. I'd rather see Loro at center back than Flores.
It's a vibe-based center back room.
These are
all right. Well, my prediction is going to be Flores is back, and Courtney, I want you to come on at the end of next season and be in the comments, and we'll have this discussion.
Coach just laid it down. Laid down the gauntlet for Courtney. So one thing I will say, like, there was a lot, we talked last week a little bit about goalkeepers, teams releasing their goalkeepers kind of surprisingly. And I had a friend of mine who is a Philly fan who said, earlier today, he was like, I think MLS needs to ban getting rid of goalkeepers and shipping them off to other MLS teams, because 2 former Philly goalkeepers put Philly out of the playoffs a couple of years apart. So I get that, that speaks to, like, maybe Evan Loro is a guy that we hang on to, but there's going to be opportunity for him and other teams. And so my big question on this whole roster thing, like, can we give Kai Kamara a game-to-game contract until he scores a goal? Like, I don't want Cincinnati to be the team that he never scores for. Like, come on, man.
What a weird stat that ended up being. Like, it's such a weird footnote in his career. Like, it almost, in a weird way, the most poetic way for him to be drafted in an expansion draft, never play for them, and then finally play for them, and then never score. Like, it's just, that's weird storybook stuff that I kind of love.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, guys, it's top of the hour. As we wrap up this show, it's the last show officially of the season. We'll likely come back and do like a full season wrap up or roster move show. I don't know what this off season is going to look like for us. We will keep you posted, but I just want to say this, like, I just want to give a shout out to everybody behind the scenes at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Like, there are a lot of people who make this possible what we do. It's not just this Monday night show. It's not just Jersey swap with Jeff Tebbets. We've got Jeff and we've got Justin who've been up in the booth on game days. We've got guys and girls who are on the field taking pictures. They're doing some videography. We've got teammates that are creating other shows on YouTube, soccer in our area and things like that. We've got writers, we've got editors, we've got a full website. Like, we have a lot of people on this team that make it possible for us to have fun and do what we do on this Monday night show, and to present content to FC Cincinnati fans locally and abroad. And so I just wanted to take the moment before we wrap up this full season to thank everybody at CST for what they do and making this show and making this content possible. So thank you, CST, and everybody behind it. That brings me then, guys, to our final thoughts. And these are, again, final thoughts after the last game of the 2025 season. So make them good is what I'm saying. Josh, I want to start with you.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it a bunch about how, what this offseason is going to look like. And, don't look at the calendar now, but we're less than 3 months away from 2026 season kicking off. Like, that's how MLS operates. Mid to late February, like 21st, like, games will start before you know it. But with, how everybody's feeling right now, some of the discourse I have seen online, some of the stories I have heard that came out of, the match on Sunday and out of the Bailey in particular, I just recommend everyone take some time away. Like, take this moment, really just kind of recharge, and remember and reflect that this is just a silly little game that we all love very passionately, albeit, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of a game. So, be nice to each other. Remember where we're here. We're all here for camaraderie. We're all here to root on a team. Things can get pretty gross when you get trapped and wrapped up in everything. So, take this time. It's holiday season. Stay with your loved ones. And to quote the very famous mayor, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll look forward to 2026.
All right. Thanks, Josh. It's good to have you on the show tonight. Wrap up the season, rants and all.
Oh, yeah. I'm good for one. If you ever need a good rant, just who to call.
That's right.
Call. I'll eat up 20 minutes, no problem.
Oh, man. Josh, it's fun to have you, man. Thanks for being here. Coach, final thoughts?
You're not kidding. There was like 15 minutes in the show where I didn't get to talk. I was like, should I go get a drink? I wasn't sure. No, I'm kidding. I love you guys. I'm right in line with Josh. I think take this moment while I'm talking and before Brian and while Brian's doing his final thoughts, fans, and get all your negativity out right now. Whether you just have to go into a closet and scream into a pillow or what, get it out. Because once this show hits end, we are officially in 2026 preseason. And you know what? When you're in preseason, the sky is the limit. Your team could do anything next year. FCC could sign a superstar to lead the line, like Harry Kane, maybe. Maybe Harry Kane's coming to FC Cincinnati. FCC could go undefeated. FCC could not just win the cup, FCC could win the treble. There is a sea of opportunity here in front of us in the preseason. So let's not muck that up with negativity. So take this show, get the rest of it out. Once we hit end, preseason ahead, and nothing, the sky is the limit. Here we go.
Awesome. I love it, Coach. I love it. Great final thought. It's been fun doing the show with you all season, man. Thanks for being a part of it tonight and all season long. It's good to have you. As I wrap up the show, man, I just want to say this. Like, I thanked all of our CSTers just a minute ago. This has been a fun season to host Cincinnati Soccer Talk. So it's been a pleasure of mine to be able to step into this role as the primary host of this show this season when FC Cincinnati had such a great season. They gave us so much to talk about. 1 goal wins and all. Looking back, there was a lot of stuff that we have to celebrate this year. And to be a part of it in this way, in this role, it was a blessing to me to be a part of it this season. So thanks to all of you who make it possible for us to do what we do. We talked about, our folks behind the scenes, but those of you who support us on Patreon, those of you who are, Apollo Home and Beyond Exercise, are sponsors in that way. We couldn't do this without you. So thank you for getting behind us, and to all of you who watch, who listen, who interact with us, who ask questions, who leave comments, who send us emails. Thanks for riding with us each and every week. We appreciate all of you, and look forward to another great season as we step into the 2026 preseason right now. Thanks for being with us all season, y'all. We're going to miss you this off season, but we'll talk to you real soon.